So, in a certain way, if you look at it very clinically speaking, the India was taken by surprise, and you have the army leadership saying in so many words that on the first day itself they were quite taken aback by the harm that the Chinese technology in the hands of Pakistan did it. We're talking about the J10CE series, which I think is spoken quite glowingly by the Chinese workers who have been interviewed. So these aircrafts performed some kind of role for them.
So, would you call this an intelligence failure as well?
Seemingly, it was. I think there was inadequate intelligence on this, and surely it did not measure up to what.
Quiet when it comes to China?
It's really bizarre, actually, if you look at it. The major threat comes actually from China, and India recognizes it. But we are loath to even mention that. I mean, Prime Minister has not even mentioned once about the threat that looms from China. In fact, when there were intrusion quite some time back, Prime Minister said nobody entered, nobody got in, nothing at all. So if you look at it, Pakistan is sitting pretty, and India has to find answers in its diplomacy. And if it's not able to find answers in diplomacy, I think our problems will increase manifold. The only answer that Indian diplomacy can give is to get some of its politics right.
Hello and a warm welcome to HW News Network, your one-stop show, truth be told, for some engaging and thought-provoking conversations. China, for the first time, has confirmed that it provided on-site technical support to Pakistan during last year's war with India, which is known in Delhi as Operation Sindoor. And this is what South China Morning Post has reported. Now, according to the South China Morning Post report, in an interview aired on Thursday by China's state broadcaster CCTV, engineers from the Aviation Industry Corporation of China, that is AVIC, described their direct involvement in supporting Pakistani operations. The admission marks the first official acknowledgement from Beijing of Chinese personnel playing a role in the India-Pakistan clash. Now, Zhang Heng, an engineer from AVIC's Chengdu Aircraft Design and Research Institute, was one of those who provided technical support to Pakistan during the conflict. This is what the report has stated. The institute is a key developer of China's advanced fighter aircraft and unmanned aerial vehicles. Now, this is for the first time China has admitted that its personnel gave an on-ground technical support to their Pakistani allies. Now, Pakistan's Air Force operates Chinese-made J-10CE jets produced by an AVIC subsidiary. Zhang Heng said that what drove his team was the desire to do an even better job with on-site support and to ensure that their equipment could truly perform at its full combat potential. The war wasn't just a recognition of the J-10CE, it was also a testament to the deep bond we formed through working side by side, day in and day out. That's what Zhang Heng added. Now, there was another employee. It's not just Zhang Heng. There were two engineers who gave the interview. The second engineer's name is Zhu Da, and he compared the fighter jet to a child. And what he said was very, very revealing. And I'm going to quote him: "We nurtured it, cared for it, and finally handed it over to the user. And now it was facing a major test. As the outstanding results the J-10CE achieved, we weren't very surprised, and it didn't feel sudden at all." Zhu Dua was also quoted as saying that, in fact, it felt inevitable. The aircraft just needed the right opportunity, and when that moment came, it delivered exactly as we knew it would. Now, this is for the first time that this admission has come from China. What does it mean as far as our diplomacy with China is concerned? What does it mean as far as our intelligence is concerned? What does it mean as far as our military capabilities is concerned? Is this a big setback for India? We'll try and answer all these questions. Joining me this evening is veteran journalist, political commentator, international affairs expert, and author Sanjay Kapoor. Sanjay, thank you so much for joining on HW News. And my first question to you is that this is the first acknowledgement coming in by China. And coincidentally, it has happened as the country observes the first anniversary of the Operation Sindoor. So do you find this coincidence very striking?
Yeah, very striking indeed, actually, because it has very deep implications. First of all, it's also a case of two competing narratives. Only yesterday or today, Prime Minister Modi said in so many words, thanking the army and armed forces for their bravery and valor and taking on the challenge of Pakistan, destroying their camps and doing many things. But the fact of the matter is that nobody shows the truth. The same story is playing out in West Asia, where nobody knows how much damage was done to U.S. bases in Middle East. What did they lose? There's not a single photograph which has been released till now. Nothing at all, which is bizarre actually. The same thing has happened. So when it comes to India, you have the benefit of Mr. Trump claiming that 11 aircrafts were shot down or 7 were shot down. We don't know were shot down, but that is what has been repeated time and again. But it's a very worrying thing, primarily because if you start analyzing what the nature of the China report, South China Morning Post report suggests, is that apparently the Indian government did not really have a clue about how much of closeness, how much of proximity China and Pakistan really enjoy. It's only later we said that India was fighting a war against three countries. India suggested that it was China, Pakistan, and also Turkey which were fighting against India. So all that is fine, but at the time when you are getting into the Pakistani airspace and bombing them and doing all those things, I don't think we had a real clue about what it is. There were dark rumors that the Pakistanis had shot down an aircraft, but now it seems it was the Chinese technology which did it. And for quite a while, I think the Chinese have been able to create evidence of how their equipment, how their aircrafts, how their missiles, the P series that they have gave it to Pakistan really performed. In fact, Pakistan, I learned, has become almost like a salesman of China, going around from country to country to show how well their technology, performed in the 4-day war. So, in a certain way, if you look at it very clinically speaking, India was taken by surprise, and you have the army leadership saying in so many words that on the first day itself they were quite taken aback by the harm that the Chinese technology in the hands of Pakistan did it. We're talking about the J-10C series, which I think is spoken quite glowingly by the Chinese workers who have been interviewed. So these aircrafts performed some kind of role for them. And then you have some other aircrafts which also did very well. In fact, Pakistan has really benefited from the relationship, and India somehow got everything wrong.
But Sanjay, this story also goes to show that somehow the intelligence department or the intelligence of the Modi government didn't actually do what it should have done. And they had no clue as to how this military capability was being developed jointly by Pakistan and China both. So would you call this an intelligence failure as well?
Seemingly it was. I think there was inadequate intelligence on this, and surely it did not measure up to what, because we don't have the benefit of knowing exactly what happened. We have only got the statements coming out from the military leadership that said in so many words that that was a setback on day one, but seemingly recovered quite a bit, and India managed to inflict a lot of harm and damage to the Pakistanis. The bases were destroyed, and a lot of things happened. When we used our BrahMos missile, things started changing for the better. But initially, I think we were taken by surprise. We didn't know what really was happening. And on top of that, what has really troubled us and many of the so-called planners is that China was giving seemingly inexpensive of war systems or missiles to Pakistan, which are proving to be very effective in comparison to us. If we have aircraft, Rafale is very expensive. In comparison to that, the Chinese JSAE is not so is fraction of how much we spent in Rafale. And similarly, other things that we bought from the European powers and US, all of them are very expensive. So anything that gets down in comparison makes us very poor in comparison to whatever Chinese made stuff is caused by us.
No, but normally we've seen, Sanjay, that Prime Minister Modi doesn't speak too much against China, and so the same thing applies to the foreign minister as well. Now, is the military dominance or the military the upper hand which the Chinese military has? Is this the reason why India normally goes silent when it comes to China? Like what Prime Minister Modi said, you remember, na koi aaya tha, na koi gaya hai, na koi aayega, things like that. And then we heard the foreign minister also saying that, we are a small country, we cannot, we have trade compulsions with China. So is this the reason that we are always quiet when it comes to China?
It's really bizarre, actually, if you look at it. The major threat comes actually from China, and India recognizes it. But we are loath to even mention that. I mean, Prime Minister has not even mentioned once about the threat that looms from China. In fact, when there were intrusion quite some time back, Prime Minister said nobody entered, nobody got in, nothing at all. Similarly, you have the foreign minister, fighting shy in trying to even suggest that China was involved. But I remember many years ago when I took the interview of Mr. Brijesh Mishra, was the principal secretary to Atal Bihari Vajpayee. He said the threat came from China. He said that in so many words. So that has not changed very much. In fact, China has become far more powerful, far more penetrative in terms of what it has, and it has got the kind of stuff that we can't even imagine. In fact, they are capable of having a swarm of drones, and they have a robotic army. They have so much of technology that I think that can really cause great amount of headache for us. And India is cognizant of it. In fact, China is dropping hints, or people who are close to China have been dropping hints about the searches about that narrow chicken neck in near Siliguri corridor, that they can knock it off if India misbehaves with them. And we have actually beefed up our defenses there. We are in a position to fight them out. But the truth is that it's going to be a very bloody once and uneven battle between China and India. And India is very cognizant of it, and it's not going to come very easy when it comes to whether it is resources. India has been relying a lot on the United States of America and hoping that will shoo away Chinese ambitions and Chinese aggression. But China has been really, you can say, heartened by its own you can say, performance when it came to supporting Iran in the short 1 month war which has taken place. Iran benefited from all the technology, all the weapon systems that it got from China, and in a certain way ensured that Iran also looks the US in the eye, which has changed the rules of the engagement world over. Like, you could have a situation where without the nuclear bomb, you could actually take on a superpower in a manner that was not even conceived. So China has been able to achieve that, and I think to some extent even the Russians are responsible for this. Russians have always believed that if you can spread your weapons around and give weapons of some which can cause great harm to the United States of America, then you are actually making your defenses rather strong. And Russia has managed to give S-400.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that is definitely there. But this acknowledgement coming in from China, what does it do to India? If I may ask you in 3-4 points, that what does it show about India? If you can let us know in the bullet pointers as to what this acknowledgement by China means for Modi government.
I mean, if I've said this in so many words, even in the early part of this program, that China is conveying very amply that don't fight with us, don't fight with our proxy, even Pakistan for that matter, because we'll come to its defense. And that is what is, I think, really troublesome. And India, I think, was not really prepared for this kind of hard lesson that they learned rather.
But isn't this a catch-22 situation that now Pakistan has full protection of China, it has full protection of America? So where does India went out? I mean, the only military might which Prime Minister Modi showed was towards Pakistan कि हम सर्जिकल स्ट्राइक कर देंगे, हम ध्वस्त कर देंगे, हम दुश्मनों के कैंप में घुसकर हम मारेंगे. Now what happens to all that narrative then?
I think it's very worrying. Very worrying for India that you have a situation where your prime enemy, Pakistan, is not only friends with the US. In fact, you have the US president praising the Field Marshal, Mr. Asim Munir, sky high, and you also have the prime minister being praised also, and you also have the Chinese who actually send their people to on the ground, and they stay awake with them to fight out against India. So I think it's very worrying. And for that matter, Russia is the only friend that we have, but Russia is also 50-50 on many things because they cannot do anything against China. They rely a lot on China, and because of the sanctions that have been imposed by the European nations and USA, or because of the Ukraine war, their reliance on China has increased quite a bit. So if you look at it, Pakistan is sitting pretty, and India has to find answers in its diplomacy. And if it doesn't, if it's not able to find answers in diplomacy, I think our problems will increase manifold. And the only answer
Right.
that Indian diplomacy can give is to get some of its politics right.
But as the country observed Operation Sindoor anniversary, Jairam Ramesh that day had written a detailed tweet. And one thing which really stood out, and he mentioned in his tweet, was that despite the extensive diplomatic outreach by India after the Operation Sindoor, Pakistan did not get isolated as it had been after the 2008 Mumbai terror attack. And you know that those kind of questions are still there, but nobody's talking about it. Mainstream media channels will not raise this issue. But isn't this a question which should be worrying the country, worrying the government?
I don't know what Mr. Jairam Ramesh said, but I have done my own reporting, and I found that to our great distress, Indian delegations which went around after Operation Sindoor were asked some very hard questions by the countries where they visited, and many of our delegations did not have an answer for that. And I think it turned out to be a picnic in a certain way because these delegations did not really measure up because they thought that they'll be able to convince their host government in a way about how Pakistan was promoting terrorism and all that. But I don't think. I think the mood had changed quite a bit. That's a different matter that India has not been able to read a few things. But I think it is a very major problem for India to somehow get the narrative back. And I don't think it is really happening at the moment, primarily because you have a situation where all its neighbors are hostile. You have Bangladesh, which is like 50-50. You've got Maldives, which is like does not recognize China, or for that matter, Pakistan. And you have many other countries which are like still trying to figure out what they will do when it comes to dealing with India.
But would we ever get the answer? Now, this is Jairam Ramesh's tweet, which I would like to read out because he's raised a number of points, Sanjay, and then you can, of course, elaborate on that and give your reaction. Now, the first, he's stated out few points. As we celebrate the first anniversary of the launch of Operation Sindoor and salute the achievements of our armed forces, it would be useful to recall the following. The first thing he writes is, the first announcement of the ceasefire that halted Operation Sindoor unexpectedly was made at 5:37 p.m. on May 10th by the US Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who claimed that it was intervention by President Trump that had made this possible. Subsequently, the US president has repeated this claim over 100 times in different countries without ever having been refuted even once by his good friend, Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Point number two, the Chief of Defense Staff, General Anil Chauhan, made a statement in Singapore on May 30th, 2025, where he had said that India had suffered initial losses as a result of tactical errors, but that after review and correction, India was able to understand the tactical mistakes and return with precision strikes deep inside Pakistan, demonstrating resilience and adaptability. Point number three, On June 10th, 2025, in a seminar in Jakarta, the defense attaché in the Indian embassy in Indonesia acknowledged that India had lost aircraft on May 7, 2025, because of the constraints laid down by its political leadership. Point number 4. The Deputy Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Rahul Singh, made a statement on July 4th, 2025, that had drawn pointed attention to China's very deep role in Pakistan's response to Operation Sindoor, providing, in addition to critical equipment and ammunition, live inputs, including satellite imagery and real-time targeting support. Yet the Modi government's calibrated capitulation to China continues unabated, including the loss of traditional patrolling rights in Ladakh, record Chinese imports, relaxation of FDI norms, etc. Point number 5. In spite of extensive diplomatic outreach by India, Pakistan did not get isolated as it had been following the Mumbai terror attack in November 2008. On the contrary, its Army Chief Field Marshal Asim Munir has been embraced with extraordinary warmth by President Trump from June 2025 onwards, and the world's leading sponsor of cross-border terrorism, namely Pakistan, has come in for praise from the US military establishment. It also bears recall that just a few days after the Kargil war ended in July 1998, the Vajpayee government had set up a 4-member Kargil review committee chaired by the country's strategic affairs guru, K. Subramaniam, the father of the External Affairs Minister, to examine the sequence of events and recommendations for the future. It submitted the report titled From Surprise to Reckoning on January 7th, 2000, and the report was tabled in Parliament on February 23rd, 2000. So this is what Jairam Ramesh has written, and it got a number of retweets, but in a sequential order. He has clearly laid out those points for which we still don't have answers. Now, what about the, like what he pointed out about the Kargil committee, Kargil review committee? People at that time when the Operation Sindoor was happening, people did say that there should be a review committee to find out what were the kind of losses, what did we lose, where did we fall, where did we miss? All that has not happened. Now, is this something which the Modi government will not want to deal with at all?
The tragedy is that nobody wants to deal with this with truth, because the fact that the truth could really hurt, could undermine the credibility of the government, and erode the trust that people have in the government as such. And that is what where the problem lies. Because the fact is that, they think that history and life and reality can be managed if you allow fake news, or you obfuscate news in a manner that people don't get to know. And that is what, like I am repeating myself, that is what Mr. Trump is trying to do it in the US. He is not allowing any kind of explanation on how much damage it has been caused, although Washington Post and others are trying to do it. He thinks they can ride out through this and in a certain way without people getting to know about it. The same practice seems to be devised and fine-tuned in India too, because we don't want to tell exactly what is going wrong with us. Like, it's a 4-day war. Why did the war end? Why did it happen? Nobody tells the story about it. Why did we agree to a ceasefire? What all the objectives were accomplished? Why did it come in such a way? How many aircrafts did we lose? Did we lose any or at all or not? Or how many did they hit? I mean, there are exaggerations on both sides. We don't even know. Even Pakistan, for that matter, we don't have a clue. On top of that, what we've also done is to ensure that there is no interaction when it comes to media between the two sides. Nothing at all. We don't even know what the Pakistanis are doing post Operation Sindoor. Have they mended their ways? Have they decided to ensure that the damages that our missiles have done have been sorted out, papered out? Nothing. There's been total obfuscation, darkness that has taken hold of the two neighbors. Nothing at all is coming out.
But once again, coming back to this acknowledgement by China, do you think that there's going to be any reaction from the MEA on this? Because except that they may say that, yeah, this is what we said. But then beyond that, what? Are we going to get any answers on this acknowledgement coming in by China that they were the ones who are giving on-site technical support to Pakistan? And what are the corrective steps which India will take? Yes.
India has to introspect quite a bit. In fact, it's as gentleman that we were in touch with said, we also need a leap of the giant leap forward, as the Chinese are used to saying that. And without that, I don't think we have a chance. And worse is that we share a border about 3,500 kilometers with China, and China has eyes on many parts of India. Like for instance, they don't agree with our occupation of Arunachal Pradesh or our control of Arunachal Pradesh, and they want to come in and do something about it. They are not unhappy about the Dalai Lama. They would like to have a say in the appointing Dalai Lama. So there are many niggling issues which Pakistan, China would like to sort out by use of force if need be, and we don't know. They are not bearing their weapons as yet. It's possible that they may try to first of all take Taiwan, and then later on look at what India has to offer. And India would be hoping that Chinese don't attack us. China remains within its own boundaries or red lines that it has created for itself, because they are cognizant of the fact that India had, I don't know about now, but when the earlier regime was there, the earlier government was there by US, India used to rely a lot on the US Army and US Defense Forces. But now things have changed dramatically. Now you don't know what may be the outcome when President Trump travels to Beijing in the next few days, and what will be the outcome and what will really happen. Whether Mr. Xi Jinping will be allowed to take over Taiwan, or because there is always a possibility that something like that could happen, or you don't know whether Mr. Trump will get the permission to bomb West Asia again, because that is what people are speculating whether he'll do that. So if you look at it, these are very tricky issues, but it only raises the profile of China. And China's profile, if it increases, it hurts India. It hurts us because we are also a power that needs to grow. We are also a country of 1.4 billion people. We managed to win independence at the same time as Chinese. Chinese have struggled, Chinese have suffered without democracy, but they have become far more powerful in many ways than we could have even imagined.
Absolutely. But yes, some very concerning questions are there. But can India really address those questions? Can Modi government think about this seriously and take some corrective measures? We do not. We don't know, and we don't even know whether we will get ever the answers regarding all this. Thank you so much, Sanjay, for joining on HW News. Thank you.